Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs Podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Fernay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Fernay.
Well, hello again. It's the Maryland Crabs coming to you from not our kitchen table, but a table in a spare bedroom. This is John Fernay and Tim Hamilton.
Hello.
How are you today?
Dandy.
Dandy? You just bought a new washing machine, eh?
I didn't mean to. I had the guy came out and he started giggling when he was looking at it, and I just didn't take that as a good sign. So
Yeah.
It's about $1,000. I did though manage to split my thumb open this week. I was cutting a pomegranate open for my kids and went right through my thumb.
You just want to be like Lindsay Lohan.
So we went to that Patient First.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Beside the fact that the doctor was very nice for being very Mengele-esque, but with the injections to the bone. But it was pretty awesome. It did patch me up.
They do a good job. I like Evolve, and they're not a 24/7 type of clinic, but the Dr. Friedman has done really well by me.
I never had stitches before. That was exquisite. That was awful.
Yeah, well,
so
I've had my share. My kids have had their share.
No hitchhiking for a month. It sucks.
But anyhow, I want to thank everybody for listening, for all the downloads.
Yeah, we were actually pretty surprised. It's going a lot better than we thought it would. And it's downloads other than like my mom downloading 4 or 5 times just to be nice. It's more than that. We've gotten a lot of feedback too. We want to thank Sean O'Neill. If you have not listened to episode 5, which was released last week, definitely go back, download that, and listen to the Robert Eads and the Jessica Packler interviews. We don't have any guests today. We just thought you're just going to just be the two of us.
Ramble on. But no, Sean O'Neill was great. I mean, because there's a guy that knows the business community in Annapolis. He was the president of the Annapolis Business Association, the architect, if you will, of this merger that is questionable whether it's going to work out between the Annapolis Business Association and the downtown Annapolis.
Well, it sounded like on paper it seemed like a good idea. It was just
right.
There was a lot of mechanics behind it that the grants, for example.
And then the big thing at the very end is like the great opportunity that businesses may have in Annapolis, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you have not listened to that, definitely go back and listen. And so if you have any other suggestions or any comments about what we talked about or any suggestions to some topics, you can shoot us an email at info@themarylandcrabs.com or hit us up on Twitter at MDCrabsPodcast. And we check that pretty frequently. Also, once you, if you have not yet done so, go to iTunes and subscribe to us. And the best way I can describe that, it's like subscribing to a magazine. You subscribe to an issue and new issues just get delivered to you automatically.
Right to your phone. And while you're there, rate us. Give us a 5-star rating. And if you're so inclined to type out something, just type out something nice and lovely and say that,
Break out a thesaurus.
What's that?
Break out a thesaurus.
Yeah.
Get creative.
Absolutely.
And also find us at our Facebook page and Facebook group for the Maryland Crabs. We have 2 different places on the Facebooks that we want to kind of experiment with and see which one is going to be more active. And then, like we said, Twitter's at MD Crabs Podcast. And then email, website, themarylandcrabs.com. And finally, find me on Twitter at Tim Hamilton47 and John at Annapolis.
That's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
Okay. But see, once we get real big and stuff like that, we won't need to say that. And it's just sort of known.
The big news that we were kind of perusing before we went into this is we're looking at HACA right now. They just got super spanked.
To be just very, very subtle about this, man, they're a hot fucking mess.
And just so everyone knows, people are reaching right now to hit stop. So because they thought, another crime thing. We're not going to talk about crime. I swear. This is different. This is just utter
malfeasance.
Incompetence.
I mean, we've got plenty of words for this. This is just...
It's ridiculous. The Capitol has a poll, and of course it's unscientific. But if you go on there, and by the time that you listen to this, the poll's going to be finished. But you can look at the results most likely. And they just said, should the city just give this up and have HUD come in and take over? And everyone pretty much is like, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Right now it's at 70% for yes, it's clear there is no leadership in place. The second one was 16% with no, the Board of Commissioners can work through its problems. And
I think it's been proven they cannot.
I agree with you there.
How many chances do you get? And in all fairness, we've had a rotation of leadership and the board members, and to the point that it's not just embarrassing, it is suspect. And again, I have to point out, we're conspiracy guys, blah, 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 blah. But come on, you don't have this kind of turnover. This is ridiculous. So to go back, we just had the first audit, which said that they'd mismanaged $400,000.
$400,000, and they misspent.
This one is $4 million.
It's $3 million. It's $3 million over a 4-month period.
Oh, 3. Wow.
So it's horrible.
That's more than I make in 2 years.
It's more than I make in a week.
Yeah, but but that's. I mean, how do you? I don't think there's been a justification, or there's been. I think the mayor has come out and said, "Well, I'm confident moving forward." I mean.
No,
this is not something, and I'm not putting it on the mayor. I'm really not. I mean, but
no, this is not Mike Panellides' problem. I mean, it is his problem, but it's not his doing.
No.
And I don't think it was Josh Cohen's doing, nor do I think it was Alan Moyer's doing.
Or
I don't think you can hang it on there. I think you can look at.
And I don't think it's the council, but I will say this is that because we've established the last time is that they appoint members to the board and they can improve them, or they approve them simply, but then after that they have no power whatsoever. So I can't blame council, but I will say this: when they come in for their quarterly report and they make their reports as to the finances and to the progress, it is received with absolute glowing reception, where it's just they're being beamed at, and they're just for the most part, with some dissenters. But I mean, there's no hard questions asked, and at this point we're beyond that. I think it's beyond fixing.
Well, one thing that is kind of interesting as I was reading through the audit and the names that were on it and everything else, is the current acting executive director is name comes up an awful lot with that. And I don't know whether he has anything involved with that or not, but the existing acting director, Walton, who is the one who is...
Did you see him stalling while he was looking that up online? He's just the acting director who's acting click, click.
That was about it. But he's been there for when Vince Leggett left. He was there when Melvin Colbert left. He's been the finance director all along. And then, so now it's that's the one I think that we need to look into.
There's some hard questions that have to be asked at this point. Matter of fact, I mean, I would say this is almost an emergency meeting of city council, where the equivalent of those Senate subcommittee hearings and the congressional, something like that. There has to be some hard questions asked.
But then again, can the city actually ask the questions?
Sure, they can ask them. They can get them in front of them, and they can ask them. And if they refuse to answer, then it looks bad for them. It's the sort of thing where, that's why I had a big problem with when the Republicans congressional committee they brought up what's her name, Lerner from the IRS, and she took the fifth every time they asked her questions, which just made her look really, really bad. And,
sure.
For the same reasons that they couldn't compel her to answer, but the fact that she's not answering was very telling on some level or another. I feel the same way with this: is get them in front of council and ask some hard questions. I think the taxpayers absolutely have a right to know. The residents have a right to know, and council has a right to know. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the things that happened with HACA was that it was, they're giving contracts when they don't have any contracts in place. They're giving contracts to expired contracts. They're giving contracts with the wrong procurement. They're not taking the low bid necessarily. And the executive director, Richard Walton, is sitting there saying that, oh, yeah, well, we can prove this. And if they can prove $3 million...
Wait, they can prove that they're in the right?
In the right. Then
do it. Yeah.
That'll be fine. But, I really hope they can, because if they can't, the residents, the 1,100 residents of HACA are totally screwed.
It's 2,000, isn't it? 2,500? There's 795 units.
Yeah. About 2,000,
I was thinking about that, too, when we were talking about, like, a large hotel. If you think about it, if HACA is the size of like a large hotel, so that's what they're managing. Yeah. It's just spread out.
Except they don't have room service and
they have people shooting at them. It's but yeah, I don't know, man. I just how many times do you get to screw up before someone in some position of power just goes, get in front of us and tell us what the hell is you people doing?
Yeah, I mean, what I would do is I would certainly look and find out where this goes back to. This is just an audit for just a little snapshot in time, too. I would turn around and see whether it be HUD, whether it be the state, whether it be the city that comes in, and just say, hey, I want the board, HACA board, to show me What happened in the last 2 years, the last 3 years? Let me see how much of this was under Vince Leggett. Let me see how much of this was under Melvin Colbert, who wasn't here very long. The name that keeps coming up is, Richard Walton, who was the finance director as well as the acting executive director. Let's go back to when he was hired. Find out what's going on there. Are there any connections?
They're not beyond reproach, and I know that they don't answer anyone per se, but there's got to be some accountability, at least outside of a legal pretense. There's got to be some accountability. They owe explanations to people. They can't. It's not a star chamber.
They owe explanations to everybody that lives in one of their properties.
You just stepped on me using the word star chamber, and I've been waiting to use that for a long time. Star chamber.
Yeah, no, I mean, they owe answers to everybody that lives there.
But Mayor Panaliti said he has faith in, quote, the people on the board. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not the mayor's fault, but why do you have faith in the people on the board?
I will give credit to the mayor because he did appoint Chip Jordan. He did appoint the other gentleman.
Why would you want to walk into that?
And now the latest guy that he's got up there, so he should have, he should have 3 very, very solid people on the board that are his appointees. He'll have a 4th appointee if this guy gets approved, but his first appointee was... Why would you want
to walk into that board?
That's a good question. I mean, that's a thankless board. It has no power. It's
a shit show. I mean, even I could say even in the best of circumstances, but I've never known HACA to run with any modicum of smoothness. So I don't know. It's $3 million. They got to repay that if they can't document it. I don't know what that does to their funding.
Well, I don't know I don't know exactly what their budget is off the top of my head, but I mean, if that has to be repaid, or a portion of that has to be repaid, where it comes out of. It comes out of the carpets that they need to replace in the common areas. It comes out of the maintenance into the.
That's pools. I mean, these poor people that they're the ones who are going to suffer because of someone else's, and it is incompetence. I don't think it's malfeasance. I think it's absolute incompetence.
The people that are living there.
I am being harsh. I'm being harsh. This is not me picking them apart. And I've never seen them even come remotely close to being competent.
I'm just kind of curious as to why the city hasn't expressed a lot more outrage to this.
That's what I mean.
Publicly. The alderman, the mayor. Oh, well, hey, the board will work through it. I mean, it's, no, I think there needs to be outrage onto this as opposed to, well, we've got people on the board now. I think we can make it work. I think you need to say, no, what the hell is going on? How did we get from point A to point B?
Exactly. Mayor Mike Panelides responded, quote, I'm disappointed that taxpayer money was mismanaged, unquote. I'm disappointed. Well, I'm disappointed it rained yesterday and we didn't get to have the picnic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at some of the other scandals in Annapolis. Back when Josh Cohen was mayor, you had a longtime employee of the finance office stole $140,000.
Well, they got arrested for that, though.
No, they did not.
Wait, they did not.
No, they did not. They declined to press charges because it was a long-term employee. They asked for the resignation. She was able to retain her pension, her retirement, which, I mean, in fairness, she paid into.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So but still, this was and they did get most of the money back. Because most of it was checks. I mean, so this was obviously this was a stupid person in the finance department. Oh, let's steal a bunch of checks made to the city of Annapolis. I'm sure my bank will take care of them. And then you look, and I will stick by him, but you look at poor Flip Walters, the harbor master.
Oh yeah.
There was $2,500, I think, or maybe $3,500 that came up short in the harbor master's office, and it was due to an assistant harbor master there, and he did not report it in time, and he was trying to figure out, and I don't know whether he was looking to give the guy a break to pay it back. I don't know what the deal was.
It was stupid, but I probably might have done the same thing, to be honest with you.
I mean, it's a guy that you work with. You're a small department. It's just, I mean, I understand where he's coming from. I understand that it was wrong, but I mean, where's, okay.
Well, we're talking, it's a big accountability problem.
Well, it is, but I mean, okay.
Across the board.
Yeah, so I mean, here's somebody steals $140,000 and they say, okay, yeah, retire, and we'll let it go. Flip doesn't steal that, gets canned, and HACA apparently now is misusing $3 million, and the mayor's disappointed.
And they're declining to comment. Multiple resignations, stalled redevelopment of Newtown 20, multiple high-profile criminal incidents that put the housing authority in the spotlight. I'm reading this from the Capitol article. How are the inspections going through?
They're all done.
Are they all done?
They're all done. They've gone in.
Did they end up paying for that, or were the inspections waived?
I think they did pay some of it, but I think they negotiated some of the pricing on it.
I think that's fair.
Do that. And let's be honest, I've seen these inspections. And again, I will say that I have not seen the inside of some of the HACA units, but the inspections aren't that much. I mean, they come in, they poke the fire detectors, and if they go beep, they move on. They put a little plug in the GFI. If that turns off, they look, they see if the toilet or the sinks run, and off they go. Are there four walls on a roof? And off they go. So it's not a huge, roof to basement inspection.
Right.
But again, if you've got issues, then you'd be delving a little bit deeper. If
so
you've got mold or something like that.
So there's nothing that the residents, there's nothing the citizens, there's nothing that the council can do until the investigation is. Well, I guess they have to respond to the investigation. That's what HACA has to do, is that they made a response basically saying, well, we have paperwork to prove that some of this is
and they're going to lay their case out, and HUD will turn around and look at it and make a decision ultimately as to what to do.
So worst case scenario, they have to pay back the $3 million.
Right, and that likely would be tied up in some kind of court somewhere. HACA they'd be stupid not to appeal that.
Probably not. Board members generally can't be held responsible, right? They're covered under.
Yeah. No, they're covered under insurance for that, I'm sure. Hopefully, Alan Hyatt is the attorney for HACA, and he's a sharp cookie, so I'm sure they've got their
Is that
officers.
pro bono?
I don't know. I know they have legal.
Not that it should be.
I know that they have legal expenses as a budget item, and they have spent legal expenses. Whether that's to Hyatt or not, I don't know.
Oh, gotcha.
It could be court fees to do evictions. I don't, I don't know specifically what that was.
Well, I feel like the city has all the responsibility of public housing and no control over it. That's all you do is you appoint people who you think will do a good job, and then you pretty much, it's like sending your kid off to college. You hope they do what they're supposed to do, and hope, but ultimately you'd never hear from them, and you don't know what's going on. And if they screw up, they have excuses.
Right.
And that's where I am being harsh on them, because I think they've been given chance after chance after chance, and I really think that there's been no accountability. I think that frankly the mayor should be outraged. He should be displaying outrage. This is outrageous.
No, and who else should be displaying outrage? And I'll throw this back on the residents there. They should be in city council.
Yeah.
And honestly, if
no matter how you feel about public housing, whether you feel like whether you think that people deserve public housing or it should be raised or anything, it is what it is, and we own it right now, despite we own the problem. So no matter how you feel about it, you should be outraged by this on behalf of the residents.
You should. If you don't have anything to do or any cares about public housing, it's your tax money that is funding this.
And let me say this too. This is, and I'm not going. I will say this: I'm not liberal. I'm really not. I like to think that I can see the sides of any situation. I will say this for the people who talk about people who live in public housing, the whole myth that they're sponging off the general public, that they're not pulling away. I will just say you live a shit life in public housing. So for better or for worse, whether you choose to work or you're lazy or whatever people think, it's not like you're living a luxury life. It's public housing sucks. Best case scenario, it sucks.
And you may have adapted to it.
Yeah, because that's all you know. So I'm not making excuses for people who are in public housing. I agree with Mr. Eads that it should be a stepping stone out. You can be conservative and argue against it about making contributions to society. You can make all those arguments, but at the end of the day, just realize they live pretty shitty lives in these places. So the fact now is their lives are going to be a lot shittier because they don't have any. They're going to be short, most likely, on funds to cover things like carpeting and
repainting,
basic repairs,
mold remediation, or something.
Exactly.
That's just it's abhorrent. And to be honest with you, I think if any of our listeners that do live in public housing, I think that rally the troops, get them into city council, and say on Monday and say, hey, what the hell are you guys going to do about this?
Well, I think. Well, that brings us to the other subject. When we talk about city function. Like this is a point where I think the city has to be more aggressive. And I'm not saying it's not their fault. It's the way it's set up. But on the other side, you have the city overreach, like we talked with Sean last week, which was the business and the red tape and the permitting. Mm-hmm. But the HPC.
Right, Historic Preservation Commission. But,
so while we're recording this, maybe, I know it probably hasn't changed by the time you'll be listening to it, but if you don't know, Gavin Buckley, who owns Metropolitan and Lemongrass and
Tsunami and Sailor Oyster Bar.
Right. So I didn't know
mayoral candidate.
And mayoral candidate. We're going to get him in here, definite. But he is being sued by the HPC, which is, I guess, quasi-government. Mm-hmm. Well, it's an appointment. I don't know if they get any funds, but
they've got a.
Matter of fact, why don't you explain the whole thing to me? I know enough. Well, he's being sued because he has a huge mural on the side, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the HPC is contending that he is in the historic district, so he should have gotten permission to do this. And he said, "Not so fast. You can talk about kinds of paint, or you can talk about, but you can't control the artwork." So break down the HPC for me.
Basically, HPC is a volunteer board, Historic Preservation Commission. It's headed by Lisa Kennedy, who is Alderman Ward 1 Joe Budge's wife. Mm-hmm. And there is
and Ward 1 is
right in the heart where this is all happening. And the fact that Joe Budge serves and votes and everything else when his wife is in charge of that is, they swear there's no conflict of interest.
Well, no, it's a tough position,
And then you've got a city staffer, Lisa Craig, who is Director of Historic Preservation for the city.
Oh, so she's employed by the city.
So she is employed by the city, and she is the one.
I always thought that was a volunteer.
No, she is tasked with enforcing the codes that the commission has come up with and they've codified and whatnot. And what happened is last fall she had said that we choose not to regulate paint.
She said that, or she wait.
So the commission chooses not to regulate paint, which makes sense when you look at.
But who comes? All right, so she says that. Who comes up with these rules?
That's the Historic Preservation Commission. That would be Lisa Kennedy and the commission.
So the commission said that they're not going to regulate paint.
Correct, and they came through Lisa Craig, which makes sense when you look at Mission Escape Rooms, which is painted that day glow green. Mm-hmm. And for a while, some people were like, "Oh my gosh, what's that?" And what happened is
you did that, didn't you? Do that?
Yeah, I did. It was really cool.
Was it cool? Yeah,
it was cool. I failed.
Of course, that's when you get lost in your apartment.
Couldn't get out of the damn room. You should see me trying to get out of my car in the morning when I go to R&R. It's horrible. But yeah, so what happened is Gavin Tsunami, the facade of Tsunami had some peeling paint, and they got a citation saying, "Hey, dude, your paint's peeling. Paint it." And he said, "Okay, well, this would be cool. What we're going to do is we're going to talk to Jeff Huntington, who's a great muralist in town, and we're going to do something fun on it."
Wasn't he on the Annapolis podcast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was a good one.
Yep, it was. So what they did is they brought it out. It was on the very first Sunday Arts Festival of 2015.
Right.
And they brought the cherry picker out there, and he got all of his paint, and he painted this whole thing in one day, and it was just like really
it's cool.
And I told Jeff to his face, I said, I think the painting is absolutely horrendous. I don't like it personally. I'm not going to hang it over my living room.
That's called a compliment sandwich.
But yeah, no, it is. But I mean, I totally think it is so cool. The thing that's funny about it, though, is if you painted a pair of Sperry's and a sailboat and a Labrador, nobody would have said anything. But it's just a dark
kale.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dark picture. It really is, and there's no two ways around that. He doesn't apologize for that. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. It's not to my taste. That's fine. A lot of his other stuff is, but now all of a sudden the Historic Preservation Commission says, "Hey, we don't like that," and now they want to regulate the paint. So
they already said that they weren't going to.
They said they weren't going to, but now they're claiming because it's a mural, it is actually a change. But it's a material change as opposed to a color change. You can make the argument that no, it's just a bunch of different shades of color
that happen to be in an exact order.
In an exact order. So that's where it stands. And what happened is the Gavin and Jody, who own Tsunami, decided that they weren't going to pull this down, and they said that the city does not regulate paint. They don't have any overreach over this, and it should stay. And they forced the city to turn around and sue them.
Where does the art district fall into this?
The art district they're obviously in support of it, and the art district sort of blends and overlaps into Historic Ward 1.
See, I thought that extended into where Tsunami is now. So I thought that maybe that they would fall under the art district, and HPC doesn't have.
No, the Historic Preservation Commission actually goes up to the kind of like the Lowe's-ish.
Okay.
Out on West Street. I know Metropolitan is not. The Lowe's is not. But if you go a little bit inner West Street from the Lowe's, that is still considered the Historic Preservation Commission. So, So that's where we were. What happened is they had a hearing on Tuesday, and on this, and it was supposed to go, and the judge, for some reason, and I imagine that the city probably asked for a postponement, postponed it till the end of, I think, in November.
I thought that Gavin's legal
team
asked
him to
drop.
Happened when the postponement came? Then Gavin's attorney filed a motion for dismissal, and that's Gormley is his attorney, and they filed for a motion of dismissal
which is standard, right?
Yeah, and quite honestly, I think it may work. I mean, the judge may turn around and look and say, hey, they don't have any,
I posted this on Reddit. I posted the Capitol article about this on Reddit, and I got lit up because Reddit. I love Reddit, but sometimes the commenters are too cool for the room, and they're all over going, "This isn't news. This is standard procedure. What you do." I'm like, yeah, but it's still pretty important. I mean, because he's drawing a line in the sand. This is bigger than Gavin.
Well, he really has. I mean, and there's a couple different undercurrents going there. He is running for mayor. Mm-hmm. We look at that. I mean, he'd be a huge advocate for the arts. You look at the recent Fringe Festival, and he had his fingerprints all over that, which was a wonderful success a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
The Chocolate Festival, and that's not the name of it, but that's coming in later on this year.
And something we'll talk about later on is he's one of the people who's putting on the Ignite.
Yes. Yeah. So, and he's been around. I mean, he's run a number of businesses, a number of successful businesses. He's
well liked.
He's very much
well respected.
Very much like Harvey Blonder or Mike Ashford or any number of Brian Bolter, the Fox brothers. These are the people that own businesses, plural, and know how to run them, and they know how to make a profit in Annapolis. So, he's certainly got something to say there. It'll be interesting to see how this folds out.
I guess my problem with the commission, and you and I have talked about this a lot, is that I think if you ever gone to the Chop House up in Parole, I don't know if it's still there. Is it still there?
Yeah.
So when it's on the second floor, this is the Chop House up in Parole Town Center. When you go upstairs, they've got the best collection of pictures I've seen of historic Annapolis. When I talk historic Annapolis, I'm talking early to mid 1900s, so probably to the 1960s.
Right.
And it's unrecognizable when you go down today.
Well, you've said it a number of times that the people in Ward 1 want to live in this town that never existed.
No. If you look at those pictures, you see the. As a matter of fact, I was listening to the Annapolis podcast interview with Mr.
Ralph Crosby.
Which
my
was
gosh,
a great one. Yeah.
Hey, time out. Go listen to that one. The Annapolis podcast, the one with Ralph Crosby. He talks about his book, growing up in town, how it's changed. Fascinating.
But he's talking about it was like till the early 1990s that you had the overhead wires going down Main Street. And if you look at those pictures, they were all. He said there's grocery store. He said there was something like 10 grocery stores downtown, and butcher shops. And if you look at the pictures, it was a proper downtown that looked very industrial. In fact, looked nothing like this quaint waterside town that not only we have today, but everyone says it's always been this way. It hasn't been this way. As a matter of fact, if you look at the harbor probably back in the 1800s, it was a shithole because that's where the poor people lived. That's where the industry was. I mean, you could probably, the harbor was probably filled with trash and garbage. And of course I like the way it is now. I'm not going to be like a New Yorker who laments losing the grittiness of Times Square.
Well, I know that when I first came down here, I took one of those tours, one of the watermark tours out on the boats around up and down Spot Creek. And they told me that back in the colonial days that the wealthy lived up top.
Right.
The prole, the poor people lived down close to the water. So waterfront property wasn't the place to be.
No, never was.
Because they had no indoor plumbing. And what happened is that the wealthy, they would take their shit buckets, throw it out into the curb, and when rain would come down, it would, take it down the street and off into the creek it would go.
Yeah, so I mean the way we're living right now is topsy-turvy, like probably in the last 50 or 60 years. Before that, if you go to Davidsonville, and you see spectacular homes out there, they're as far away from the water as they could possibly be. Because the water, I mean, we like to think that that the waters today are much dirtier and filthy. They're actually a lot better than they were. So I guess my point is, if you look at the way Annapolis is right now, it's great and I love it and it's charming. But I don't think this Annapolis ever existed. So I think what you have HPC doing is that I feel the same way about Trump. Make America great again. I think Trump, and I'm not making a political statement here, but I will say that Trump and his supporters, they're yearning for that Norman Rockwell, Maryland or United States that never existed. That Norman Rockwell was an idealization of what he wanted, what people, it's what the school kids learn. It's not the actual, that's not how it was. So they want this 1950s world that never existed.
tugging at the heartstrings.
Exactly. Who wouldn't want to live in Leave It to Beaver? Of course you would, but Leave It to Beaver never existed.
Right.
It just didn't.
It was a TV show.
Yeah, so I feel the same way about Annapolis. Is if you want to preserve a standard of living to make our town walkable and livable and charming and all that, I'm all for it. But when you're hiding behind an Annapolis, I don't mean hiding behind, but when you're promoting and making people's lives tougher, if you don't have, you have synthetic columns, and
right.
I'm the same way. I like authenticity. My house, I'd rather have the hardwood floors rather than the pressed stuff. Just
Prego or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
and call me a snot because I am. But so I get what they're trying to do, but at the same time, sometimes it seems like they're so overboard that people are tearing their hair out. Don't say it's not historically accurate. Neither were traffic lights, and we've got those.
Indoor plumbing,
yeah, exactly.
Electricity.
So I just think
where do you stop it?
I think there has to be some flexibility, and I understand you have to have the yin and the yang. You have to have the people who are going to push the limits, and then I think you have the HPC who are always going to make it difficult for them, because if they start giving in and compromising, then all of a sudden you're going to see the edges kind of start to slip a little bit. But I don't know if you go to Frederick or Easton or St. Michael's, I don't know if they have similar organizations. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know if they have similar regulations, but they seem to maintain their charm beautifully.
I certainly think there's a need to preserve buildings.
Yeah, I do too.
To preserve, perhaps some sidewalks and whatnot, but to preserve a lifestyle is, and that's where I think they're kind of overreaching.
For example, windows. I'm saying I'm not lecturing because I don't know the rules because I don't live downtown. But if you want some windows that all of a sudden would save you thousands of dollars a year in heat,
double pane vinyl clad windows,
right,
which look exactly like what you're taking out.
Are you allowed to do that?
No.
Or is it? Yeah. See that to me, all of a sudden, for a liberal town, you're talking about wasting energy and not making things energy efficient. It just seems kind of silly to me at that point.
Well, the whole thing is kind of amusing about the whole mural thing with Tsunami is that if you look at the side of Hats in the Belfry, I believe it is, right down at the foot of Main Street.
Oh, is that the tobacco? Or no,
I think it's chewing gum, maybe.
Oh, no,
it's
like shoe polish, maybe.
It could be. It's got a big mural on the side,
which is great.
And I believe Stevens, which is now the Mission Barbecue, also had a big mural on the Randall Street.
But those are historic murals. I think we got to point out that they no. But I mean,
well, when does history reinvent itself? When,
true.
Is the Tsunami mural now going to be an historic mural 50 years from now? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably not done.
I haven't heard anyone who's been upset about it. That's anecdotal. But I've not heard, I read the Capitol comments. I don't know if you've gone to the comment section of the Capitol, which
that's a stupid move, but that's
I know. I get sucked into that. It is just a pool of negativity and nastiness and just. But
there are a couple people that are pissed off about it, and I think they're more pissed off that Gavin didn't disclose his intentions prior to, and he just took it upon himself to do it, and that wasn't the way things are done, and that's fine.
Good for him, though. I think he's making. I don't know if he meant to make a statement, but he is.
And now he's sticking with it.
Well, you have to at that point because I don't think it would cost him much to do, but there is a principle involved at this point. It'll be interesting, though. He's running for. Now I'm really extrapolating, but he's running for mayor, and he's got a good shot at it, like as it is today. If you things could change over the next few weeks and months because our election's not for another year.
It's so funny. I'm gonna slide off to another topic because the mayor is acutely aware that Gavin is running. Gavin actually went into his office and sat down with him and said, "Hey," and he said, "Oi, Mike." I can't do the Aussie accent, but he's like,
he brought his shrimp and his bobby.
Yeah. He said,
his Foster's lager.
He said, I'm running against you, mate. Have at it.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be good.
But the mayor is acutely aware of a re-election campaign. he's raised $120 some odd $1,000 already. He's got some cash. I don't think cash wins this race.
No, I don't think so either.
Alone. You do need some cash, but
not a lot.
Just take what happened last week, and actually it's just happening this week, but it'll be, by the time you hear this, it'll be last week. The city, with the boat shows when they came into town, the city immediately goes to what they call event pricing in the garages.
So we're in the middle of the sailboat show right now as we do this, and I guess that hurricane that they were predicting is going to veer off. Unless you're listening to this next week, what are you talking about? We were under 20 feet of water, so we're taking a risk doing that. But in downtown is typically hell for locals when it comes to the boat show.
Sure.
I think St. Mary's is closed. The school, is it? Aren't they? Are they off for a couple days?
I don't know.
I think they are. But it's a sacrifice you make. I think it's supposed to be good for businesses, although I've heard some grumbles. I don't know if it is or not.
I spoke with a number of people last year, and it's good for the businesses below Conduit Street.
Right.
And what they say is that people, because
businesses or restaurants?
Businesses in general.
Okay.
Most people go up to Conduit Street. They won't go up to the top of Main Street, and they turn around at Conduit and come back down. And the reason is because the boat show has done such a good job of moving people that want to leave or come. They've got their buses and their shuttles and stuff like that to do it, but it meets down there at City Dock as opposed to up at the top of Main Street. So there's no reason for people to walk too much further up.
Yeah, it's a pain, but I think I like the boat shows. I'm not going to lie. I've never been to the sailboat show, but I mean, I like the concept of it. I like that it brings people here. So I like it. I mean, it's a pain.
Navy football games are a pain too.
Yeah.
So it's commissioning. I mean, yeah.
But the event pricing that was supposed to be.
This is what the city came up with. This idea is for special events, and they do it like for the 4th of July and New Year's Eve and boat shows, and I think probably commissioning week. They take the garages, and instead of paying the $2 an hour to park, whatever, they say okay,
$4, isn't
it? Whatever it is. I use resident coupons to do it, but yeah, so what they did, they said Hillman Garage, which is down on Main Street, is going to cost you $40 to park, flat fee, whether you stay 2 minutes or 24 hours.
So they're on the Uber event plan sort of thing.
For Gott's Court, it was $20. I think it might have been 35 and 25, 20 or 25, and then it was like 15 at Knighton, which is behind Tsunami and Lemongrass and Metropolitan. Right. Regardless of whether you stayed. 10 minutes or however long. And there was a big pushback this year because they've doubled the rates of parking elsewhere. They've doubled the rates of fines in residential areas. The boat show takes 90% of the metered parking down at City Dock. So then it was there was a big pushback, and the mayor listened to his credit. But I think it's a political move to do.
I guess so. I think I'm outraged in principle, because I have a strong sense of fairness, which makes my life very difficult. But in all honesty, I don't think many locals go down these 2 weeks. There's just there was a local restaurant a couple of years ago. I'm not going to mention because I was pretty feisty about it, but they had a special, the $5 lunch special, and during the boat show week they jumped to $10. Yeah, I know.
Oh, that was Manja, wasn't it?
I don't know who it was, but there was a big kerfuffle about it. But I mean, it was. For me, I just, as a local, I was really ticked off, and I understand why they do it. They have a right to make a buck, but, as a local, I'm just kind of like, I'm here all the time. I'm supporting you in the winter when business is lousy. So can you not cut the locals a break, just make our life a little bit easier. But
well, just to give you an idea on that pricing, though, there was a mutual friend of ours that she had planned to go to Mission Escape Rooms. She had rented out 2 rooms for her son's birthday, for a birthday party for an hour. And now you've got to park in the garage. Now all of a sudden it's...
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't think about that. Yeah, you're hosed if you're above... Yeah, if you're above Conduit, you are going to especially if you're not a restaurant, you are going to feel the effects of that. Although I think the city backed off, though, didn't they?
And they did. They backed off now. So what happens is they've got the flat fee pricing, the event pricing, which will be at Hillman through the boat show this weekend, which is the Power Boat Show. The other garages will be as standard.
Okay, I think that's fair.
And that is.
I think, it's funny. If you go to any town, the hotel tax and the rental car tax and all these taxes which are designed to hit visitors because they're going to pay it. Sure, they'll be annoyed, but who cares because they're not voting. So you always want to soak the outsiders, and we do that too. I think with hotel stuff, and that was the big discussion when it came down to Airbnb, where they weren't paying. It was said they weren't paying their fair share. But I think, okay, if you want to soak the outsiders for the boat show, pick a garage that they would go to and sure, have at it, I guess. So I get that. I think just right now with the parking with SP Plus coming in, that everyone's a little bit on edge because it's all still being worked out.
That'll be interesting to look at this thing, and that would be something that would be a real good issue for Gavin to bring Mike on. I mean, obviously Mike's got to keep Crystal Spring at bay.
I'm annoyed by SP Plus, and here's why. And this is my axe to grind. There's a few things, and I know they just came on a few months ago, but there's been enough time there where I think they can work these issues out. The first of which is people don't know how to use it. So when you come in, when you park, I've seen this a zillion times where people walk over to the machine and they found out that they need their license plate. So they walk back to their car to get their license plate number. They go back to the machine and it takes them forever to get through the process. Then they get their ticket and then they go put it on their dash because that's what they're used to doing, because they don't know that they don't have to do that. There's no signage when you come in, no one telling you what to do, and there's supposed to be parking ambassadors that I never saw.
Nope.
And the other part, which pisses me off, is because they have a parking app, which would be great, is that you come in, you can pay through the app, you don't have to do anything, even though they doubled the prices, which is annoying.
You pay with the app, not for the app.
You pay with the app, but you pay a 45-cent fee every time you use the app. So let's say you go and you park for an hour, so that's costing you $4, right? Am I right? I don't want to say something wrong and have someone bitch at me.
Whatever the initial thing is, plus 45
All right,
cents.
whatever it costs you to park, plus 45 cents. So let's say after an hour you say, oh, you know what, I'm running over. It's very convenient. You can stand wherever you are at Mission Barbecue or at Pip's Hot Dogs, and you can right then extend. But then it costs you another 45 cents. So you've essentially paid $1 over what you would normally pay. So let's say you go downtown 4 times a week. Let's just say once a week. That's 45. That's about $2 a week almost. Let's just call it $2 a week. So 52 weeks, you're spending
that's $100 a year.
$100 a year for the privilege of paying. That's obscene to me. And yes. I will say that Annapolis has the highest rate that I found on their website. Even Bethesda is, I think, 40 cents or even 35 cents.
For a brief period, Annapolis was the highest in the country. And we brought it up actually on R&R. We brought it up to them. And then later on that afternoon, they upped the rates in D.C. So
you screwed the people in D.C. They didn't go the other way on it.
D.C. and Annapolis are the highest rates for
that's nuts, though.
The parking app.
I find that. So I'm going to be honest with you. I know it's a small thing, and people are rolling their eyes because it's just me being outraged again. It's not a small thing. I don't go downtown that often. I'm not going to lie. Not because of that, but because parking. You can always find parking. If I can find parking on the street, I get parking on the street because I know as local, I know all the places to go. But I don't like Josh doubled the meters,
right.
And then Mike doubled the meters, so
effectively for certain instances.
Right. So and now you have a fee on top of that. I'm not happy with this.
Well, it'll be,
and I know they have to iron some stuff out, and no one's gonna be happy paying for parking, but
it'll be interesting to see how this contract reconciles at the end of the year, because they've got incentives for amount of revenue they've collected and so on and so forth. Alderman Budge had put out onto his Facebook page that SP Plus is reporting that in the month of September, they did 250% more than the month of September last year.
Is that that's not including fines?
And that was their ticketing and their fining.
Oh, so it's everything all together.
So it's everything all together. Now, mind you, that was not including October, which is when all of the fines doubled.
Right.
So if you overstay your welcome at a meter, it used to be $20.
Right.
Now it's $40.
First time.
In a meter. Meters are always going to be $40. Okay, in residential parking.
Oh.
Okay, if you're parked in a residential area.
Oh, that's when the fines increase.
Okay, the first fine is $40. The second one, I believe, goes to $70. The next one goes to like $120, and then I think it caps out at
Well, that's where you lose Ward 1 residents, because they're all for this, because because all of a sudden, despite the fact that they live downtown, people started parking there, much to their astonishment that people are going to park in the downtown area.
Yeah. Well, that's after they're done peeing in their front yards, they park in front of their house.
So I don't know. I mean, I really town park. I didn't have that problem with them. They seemed okay to me. I never. I mean, I think it's like your cable company or your electric company. You're never going to be thrilled with whoever's charging you money for something that's relatively basic.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I mean, I know they're still working some stuff out. Matter of fact, I saw. I think Alderman Littman has a proposal in, or he's working on some legislation now, modeled after what happens in other cities, about paying your fines into the Lighthouse Shelter. I think in canned goods, right? I mean, it's feel good. I like it. I mean, I know there's going to be some pushback with implementation, and
yeah, there is. I mean, you did the math. You figured out like for a $40 ticket for an overstayed meter, that's like 90 pounds of potatoes or something.
I would do that out of spite, though. I totally would do that. I would go out of my way to go to the store to buy potatoes to bring in, just so that I didn't have to pay a freaking fine.
Oh, I would too. I mean, there's so many things that they could do for that. And I think this is a great program, whether it be donating food or perhaps maybe just giving the option during a period of time when there is such a need in the homeless shelters, the Lighthouse, to be able to make the check payable to Lighthouse as opposed to the city of Annapolis.
Do you think they could, around Christmas, they always shut down the meters?
They do.
Are they going to do that again this year, you think?
Presumably they did it last year.
And they've done it. That's always been a real nice thing. I've always liked that.
Yeah. And that's, and actually I believe the Downtown Annapolis Partnership, or Downtown Main Streets Partnership gets a sponsor that covers the cost of that because the city doesn't do it for free.
I wonder who's going to handle Midnight Madness this year.
Actually, the Downtown Annapolis Partnership is. I just got an email from Royal Bundy, who's the I think she's the vice president of Ram's Head now. And I haven't read it yet, but it's this Midnight Madness stuff.
Yeah, well, that was always Judy Budenstick always did a killer job with that. I know there was a lot of people involved, but Judy's been doing it for as long as I know.
Shout out to Judy. And I finally got her off my ass because our very first podcast, remember we said we were going to give away a gift card for...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, she's been hounding me for like weeks. And I finally remembered to bring it in this morning.
You know you're a liarhead. I mean, you are.
Yeah, I brought it in this morning. I put it on her desk and I said, here, get off my ass.
Yeah, well, she does a great job with Midnight Madness. But that's about... I don't go downtown that much anymore. I stick into my Forest Drive quarter stuff. Although, with the shutdowns.
Forest Drive.
They had another one last... they had two last week. One, the car was on fire.
Yep.
On fire. How does that happen? And then one, a bus was hit, head on. You and I were arguing about
right there by the firehouse up on almost near Chinkapin Road, right? Byberry Road.
I don't think there's any solution. I hate it. I don't know if there's any solution to it. I mean, the mayor said in a meeting once, someone asked, do you have a contingency plan?
Bullshit.
And he said yes. He nodded. And I'd love to see it.
No. I would like to see David Mandel, who's the Office of Emergency Management, or Chief Simmons. I would like to see a book. I want to see a document, and I've never been able to see that. I mean, this should be the simplest thing in the world. You know where your main arteries are. You know where your choke points are. So when Forest Drive gets shut down, no matter where it is, you know you need to deploy cops, reserve cops, public works, fire department, to move traffic through.
Well, I think because if Annapolis shuts, or if Forest Drive shuts down, that's the whole city and onto 50 and 97.
Yeah, no, it is. It's ridiculous.
I think, and I saw an incident back in May. Yeah, it was the middle of May because I was waiting for someone for my son's graduation from middle school or from elementary school, and there was pedestrians crossing the middle of the road, as they do, over to the McDonald's at the far end of Forest Drive, and the little girl got clipped, and she was fine. I mean, I think she got tapped, and I'm not minimizing that. But I was at the front. I saw the whole thing, and I saw the police shut down Forest Drive inbound. And I guess it's inbound. They shut it down for the better part of an hour. There was no reason to. I was right there. I saw that there was no reason to do it. I just think that they're very blasé about shutting down Forest Drive. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. And I think as a resident, you have to realize that we live on a peninsula. There's even with, you have Spa, Hilltop,
Spa, Hilltop, Forest. You have Bay Ridge.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot you can do.
No, there's not. But there's a lot of ways you can mitigate that, and the city does not do it well. The other day, when they had that bus accident up there, I don't live that far from the rec center. It took me 45 minutes to get to the Pitmore Rec Center from my house. Okay, it's less than 2 miles, which is just absolutely absurd. There was no officers directing traffic at any of the lights. I mean, you certainly look at, why do we need to give Hillsmere Drive at 5 o'clock in the afternoon the outbound green light?
Yeah.
I mean, there's very little traffic coming out of Hillsmere at that point. Most of the traffic is going into Hillsmere.
I think it's a lack. I think you have so much kicking the can down the road. Just not just Annapolis. I'm not picking on Annapolis. You get that in most government, and that's the problem that most Americans have, is that you look at these issues and they just get ignored. But this is a problem that you have. Forest Drive, and they're looking at that. What is that? Parkside Preserve.
Yes.
That's so. I mean, if you are pushing to have Crystal Springs built and these other developments built, which according to the traffic study that I saw 3 or 4 years ago would be catastrophic, and you and I disagree on it. But and I'm not anti-development. I'm not. But I mean, you have to have some plans to go along with this. I want to see we're going to build this, and here's what we're going to do to alleviate any issues that we have once we build it. Instead of that kind of like, oh, there's no problem. It's not going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue. It's an issue right now. So I mean, I think that's where you get the pushback, and it's all cloaked in the environmental reasons that why people are upset at Crystal Springs or Park Preserve. I think that the environmental people are obviously the most vocal, and I think most people don't know that these developments are in the hopper. But when they start getting built, and you have the commuters who are coming in, they're going to flip out when they start paying attention to it. Because even for me, I'm an environmental guy. It comes down to traffic. You know, it's nasty. And as we see, one accident on Forest Drive shuts down Annapolis. Period. All the way over to the Best Gate, the whole city stops.
Yeah, I mean, Spa all the way down through the circle, down Taylor, down to Best Gate. No, you're right.
And there are some. And again, it's very easy to say fix it. There are some severe limitations when it comes to alleviating a traffic bottleneck in Annapolis. The fact that we have bridges involved, and I mean, I will say, if they would open that off Westmoreland Parkway, not Westmoreland, is it Victor Parkway?
Yes.
Behind the Giant, that in an accident, you open that up in the case just to move traffic. But I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. But I'd like to see a plan that says, if you have an accident between Spa and Cherry Grove,
this is what you do.
This is our plan. If there's an accident between Hillsmere and Forest Hills, this is what we do.
Well, one thing I've always said is, the answer from Chief Simmons has been, oh, well, in an evacuation, everyone's going out one direction. And my thing is like, well, what if a hurricane comes up? What if a tornado? What if, whatever,
chemical spill?
Whatever it is. He said everything's going out. I said, but is it unreasonable to think that a tree or a telephone pole would not fall over Forest Drive? I mean, that's still,
Right.
Even though people are, going out, I get that. But once that road is blocked, how are you going to move people around?
And they have traffic experts working for I don't know for the city, but they at least they commission them.
I got to think they do. My God, they've got an arborist.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd love to see. Look, and you have to come to the realization that if you live in Annapolis, that is the big price you pay. I mean, our traffic, I don't think it's any worse than Bethesda or Baltimore or DC. Matter of fact, we probably have it better in a lot of respects. But if there's an accident, we have it worse than most because we only have one way on and off several peninsulas in town.
Well, I'll tell
you.
But
you have to accept that as you live here. Yeah, it sucks, but I mean that's life. At some point.
One thing for people that bitch about Forest Drive, I will say, and I learned this when I had my knee surgery and was doing my follow up with my doctor. You try that Route 3 from 97 down to past Wog Chapel, the new shopping center, stuff like that. During a pseudo rush hour, I've been anywhere from like 8 o'clock until about 10 o'clock, and it's just a nightmare. It's nothing compared.
It's brutal, yeah.
Yeah, Forest Drive is nothing compared to that.
What do you think are the worst intersections in town, just in general?
665 and River Road. Right there at Coonsford, or whatever that old Sheehy Lexus.
Oh, going under the underpass?
Yeah, with the bridge and the underpass. And that's the most confusing one. I think the one at Riva Road.
Because that light, first of all, if you're taking a left onto 665, that light lasts
2 seconds.
2 seconds? I mean, you get two cars for that?
Yeah. The three intersections are that one, the one further down where it intersects West Street, where you can go sort of straight, and you got to take a left to do that.
Brutal. I think Taylor and Rao is horrible. That one lasts forever.
Yeah. And I also think Hilltop and Forest. As far as danger goes, because you get a lot of people trying to take that right, and two people trying to take it right.
I asked about that when I called the city about that, because what happens is, I don't know why, because you figure most people are locals who are on that, but they have to take a left there onto Hilltop when they're going inbound on Forest. And all of a sudden they panic and they jump into the lane to go straight on Forest. So I said, why not put a sign ahead, just the signs over saying, left turn only. That would alleviate all that. I said, nope. It wasn't even on the table. I don't know why.
An overhead structure with two
signs.
That's two signs. Piece of cake.
But that's my problem with Crystal Spring, is that even if there's no extra traffic, just putting an extra light there is going to fuck everything. That's my problem with Crystal Spring.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it ever does. Mayor penalties holds out well. Have you heard about Ignite? You want to ignite Annapolis?
I have heard about Ignite.
Want to light it on fire?
I have. Matter of fact, I think I don't know if it was Annapolis or it was Baltimore. I got really into Ignite. And Ignite is sort of like TED Talky, sort of, where it's...
Yeah, TED Talk Light.
Yeah. It's Matter of fact, that's how I got to be. I'm a Words with Friends fiend, and there was a guy who did an Ignite on how to win at Scrabble, and it changed my life. My life sucks. So it wasn't hard to do. Yeah, it was just. So.
Yeah, there's a new thing coming out in November, and it's called Ignite Annapolis. Mm-hmm. And essentially what it is you get 5 minutes, 20 slides that you can provide to tell your message, and you can say whatever it is that you want us to talk about.
But the slides are pre-programmed, so if you get off track, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah, so it's sort of like karaoke, is that you can't fall behind, or you got to stay with it.
Yeah, which is kind of neat. But you've got Chris Valerio Shock, who used to be with the
Tech Council.
Yeah, the Tech Council, and I think she was with the
Chamber
of Commerce before. You've got Liz Thibodeau, who was with Take One Media, and now she's with Quintain Marketing. Kathleen Booth, who's with Quintain Marketing, and Gavin Buckley, who we've talked about a little bit earlier, are putting this on together. It's going to be at Maryland Hall on November 30th.
I think some of the previous topics, just to give you an idea of just how all over the place they are. Lessons from an accidental paddler, which sounds sexy actually. Oh wait, never mind. That's thinking of something else. But then creating super secure passwords that are easy to remember. Everything I ever needed to know, I learned from doing triathlons. That's so not me. 100 mistakes I'll try not to make again. 12 hard-won lessons of entrepreneurship. What Jimmy Stewart can teach us about the U.S. tech industry. You know, Jimmy Stewart was from Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Was he?
Indiana, Pennsylvania. That's the Christmas tree capital of the world.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Why learning how to dance will make you a better person. Undoing your social training and creative inhibitions in 5 minutes. And citizens' voices driving federal policy. A dream come true? ? So these are all things they've done before. So they're looking for people to do topics.
Right. There's going to be a maximum of 16. And if you are interested in submitting a topic, and we'll ask them to see if they can extend this just a couple of days just because we're mentioning it. But October 15th is the deadline, right, which this should be up before then.
Yeah.
But we'll beg with them. We'll beg with them and say, hey, look, we'll put a link there. We'll put it in the show notes.
Right.
To make sure that we can...
and you can send them. You can call them at, or you can send them an email at igniteannapolis@gmail.com. That's Ignite Annapolis,
and that's IGNITE.
They really are cool. You know, I had a friend and I were going to do it. He was obsessed about it for years, and he unfortunately passed over. Boy, we would have really had a good time doing this. But you can do any topic you want. You give them topic, and they give you topic approval, and you have the 20 slides, and it's 5 minutes, but look them up online. Go to YouTube and look up Ignite. And if you like TED Talks, you'll love Ignite. It's kind of the same concept.
It is. It's on speed. It's a little bit, little speed dating meets TED.
Well, it's not as meandering. You have to be on point with this. That's the cool thing.
Are we going to do one?
I don't know. We should do one.
Like our latest stupid freaking idea.
It's not
the Maryland crabs.
It's not like I have. Yeah, I spend so much wasted time with my family and raising my kids when I should be doing something important.
But it will be happening going down on November 30th at 7 o'clock at Maryland Hall. There will be 16 presentations, and it will cost to get in. It's $190 per person to get. No, it's only $5 to get in.
I just checked that one.
Yeah, $5 to get in at Maryland Hall, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, if I may go try to do something.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
But if I don't, I'll definitely go and watch. And if you go, I'll definitely go and laugh.
Well, I was thinking maybe I can do how to throw knives. I'm going to need your help with a couple things there.
Okay.
That's going to be awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
But so definitely give them a call. In the meantime, or give them an email. In the meantime, shoot us an email at info@themarylandcrabs.com if you have any show ideas or any topics you'd like to see us cover, or if you have any criticisms or more to the point, if you have any praise for us to say how awesome we are. You can also find us on Twitter at MDMaryCrabsPodcast. And then find us on iTunes. Subscribe there. It just makes your life so much easier if you subscribe to the podcast, because every time we release a new one, it'll automatically download to your device. You don't have to worry about anything.
And my goal this week is to figure out how to get that subscribe to iTunes button on our website,
which is themarylandcrabs.com.
It is. That's my goal for this week. Your goal is to figure out Google.
Yeah, Google, YouTube. That's hellish. But
maybe you need to buy a Google phone. Maybe it works better if you buy a Google phone.
I'm an Apple dude. And then Facebook page and Facebook group, join them both. And then on Twitter, you can find John at Annapolis and me at Tim Hamilton 47. And you can friend us both on Facebook. We like having friends.
But to go back and listen, check out some of the other ones. We're starting to get a stable of episodes in.
This is 6 right now.
Yeah, we had our first introduction there. Then we just sort of rambled on about crime.
Yep.
You and I, and then we talked to Robert Eads, who
was great,
was awesome. We talked to Jessica Packler
in Eastport,
living right on the fringe of public housing, and we got into business with Sean O'Neill. We got into business and beers.
Yeah, we were drinking. We got to do more of those.
Yeah,
I like drinking.
Anywho.
So that's about it for this week. We'll have another one coming out next week. We got some live events coming up, so stay tuned. Again, Facebook, that's where we're going to let you know what everything is coming up and what everything is happening. So join us.
Yeah, and go check out Scott McMullen and the Annapolis podcast and listen to that episode with Ralph Crosby.
Yeah, it was good.
Fascinating guy.
So until then, we'll see you.
Later. Bye.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them at all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.